Hey there VCE HHD students, my name's Andy, I'm a VCE Health and Human Development teacher. In this short video we're going to look at answering the 2018 VCE HHD exam, question number 5. Before we dive into that question, just a reminder, the Health Resources Hub YouTube channel has a new video coming out like this one each day between now and the HHD exam at the end of the year. So if you'd like to get access to all of those, please head on over and subscribe. There's a subscribe button in the bottom of the video here. Please also tell your HHD friends to do so too. You can also sign up to the ACE HHD exam preparation sessions I'm running at the end of this year at book.acevc.com. You'll see our social media links there if you'd like to follow us and get alerts to the new videos coming out each day, and also our email if you've got any questions or any suggestions on videos you'd like me to work on. So question number 5 in the 2018 VCE HHD exam, you'll see here was worth 7 marks overall and started with some information from the 2012-2013 Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Survey. So basically it gave you some information stating that obesity rates were higher for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander males and females than non-Indigenous people. Also, heart disease rates were significantly higher, and rates for diabetes and high sugar levels were between 3 and 5 times as high compared to non-Indigenous. So after that stimulus material, you can see A for 3 marks was asking you to select a socio-cultural factor and explain how this could account for the differences in Indigenous and non-Indigenous health status identified in the health survey. So there's a few things going on in that question. Number 1, obviously you have to choose a relevant socio-cultural factor, and you have to link that to differences in Indigenous and non-Indigenous health status. So essentially you have to look back up at the survey and think, okay, what are the different diseases that are mentioned there that I can link into in regards to health status, and how are they different between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians? So you can see a quarter of students were able to obtain full marks for this particular question, but they've said here in the examiner's report that many students could identify a relevant sociocultural factor, but they couldn't link that to the differences in Indigenous and non-Indigenous health status. You had to make specific links to the survey results in your answer. So they've provided a sample answer for unemployment, and they've talked about how Indigenous Australians are 4 times more likely to be unemployed compared to non-Indigenous Australians. Just note, you don't have to mention there how many times, okay, more likely to be unemployed Indigenous are compared to non-Indigenous Australians. You could have just mentioned there that Indigenous Australians are more likely to be unemployed compared to non-Indigenous, and then you have to go on and link that to something to do with the survey. So they've said here, risk factors associated with unemployment include higher rates of smoking and alcohol. Alcohol's kilojoule dense, which can contribute to higher rates of obesity for Indigenous people compared to non-Indigenous people, and that was one of the examples present in the survey. They also then linked smoking to being a risk factor for lung and mouth cancers and heart disease, which is also the heart disease rates were higher in the survey for Indigenous compared to non-Indigenous people. So they've made a couple of links there. Another example of a socio-cultural factor you could have chosen would have been something like education, and talked about how Indigenous Australians are likely to have lower levels of education than non-Indigenous Australians. And then you could have linked something such as, therefore, their knowledge, okay, on the risks associated with, say, energy-dense foods, such as processed foods might be lower. They might be more likely to consume that than non-Indigenous Australians, contributing to higher levels of obesity as mentioned in the survey. So there's a few different examples of socio-cultural factors you could have used. The next question, B for 4 marks, was asking you to refer to information for the health survey, explain how the Australian dietary guidelines could assist in improving Indigenous health status. Now you see this is worth 4 marks, and so with a 4-mark question I often say to my students, break it into 2 2-mark questions, and so I'd be trying to reference 2 different Australian dietary guidelines, okay, and make a link between each of those and information from the health survey. So you can see not many students, okay, were able to obtain full marks for this particular question, and the examiner's report mentions that many students found it difficult. They gave an example of a possible response. So you can see they mentioned that Indigenous Australians have higher rates of obesity compared to non-Indigenous Australians in almost every age group. So that was from the survey. And then they've mentioned Australian Dietary Guideline 1, okay, to achieve and maintain a healthy weight, be physically active and choose amounts of nutritious foods and drinks to meet your energy needs. And then they've made a link. They've said by being physically active, consuming nutritious foods and drinks, and eating according to energy needs, rates of obesity in the Indigenous population could be decreased. So make sure if you've ever got a question about the dietary guidelines that if you can, state the number and the dietary guideline in full, okay, and then make the relevant link. Another one you could have talked about here would be obviously Dietary Guideline 3, which is talking about limiting the intakes of various things such as alcohol, okay, things like saturated fats, also sodium, and then you could have made a link to reducing an intake of sodium, reducing levels of heart disease, because that was high in Indigenous populations as mentioned in the survey. So there's a few different examples that you could have made there. Okay, hopefully you found that short video useful. A reminder about the Health Resources Hub YouTube channel. Please subscribe. The HHD exam preparation session I'm doing for ACE. Our social media links there and our email. Thanks so much.